Welcome to Politics NY's newest video interview series in the community, which is sponsored by AARP. I'm Robert Posericky, Executive Editor of AM New York Metro. Today we'll be in the community with City Council member Shekar Krishnan of Queens. He represents the 25th District, covering the neighborhoods of Elmhurst and Jackson Heights. He won the seat in 2021 and will be up for re-election in November to complete his term. Councilmember Krishnan, great to have you with us.
Thanks so much for having me on today. Really happy to be here.
Great to have you. All right, so let's start with the topic of ageism, which is something that, as you know, permeates all aspects of life in New York for local residents. It's in the workplace and street design and public transportation systems, even how services are promoted and accessed, and even in the built environment itself. What is one ageism issue that has had an impact on your community, and how have you addressed it?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on today. And I couldn't agree with you more that ageism, age discrimination is one of the most pressing issues we face in our city. And I know this not even from my time as a council member, but prior as a fair housing lawyer and civil rights lawyer for a long time, combating housing discrimination and representing many, many seniors on these issues. I think one thing in particular that I always feel strongly about is that New York City, every community in our city must be a place where everyone can age in place, feels comfortable, feels supported, has the resources and services they need to live their lives every day and age in one place and in their community and age with dignity. In my neighborhood of Jackson Heights and Elmhurst, as the chair of the Committee on Parks and Recreation, I know firsthand that we have some of the least amount of green open space in all of New York City. And we know from being the epicenter of the pandemic here in Elmhurst and Jackson Heights, how crucial green space and public space is to bring us together, a place where we can rest, find respite, socialize with friends, spend time with family, relax. It's crucial for our mental health and for our well-being. And so one thing that I've tried to do really in our neighborhood is work to improve and expand our green space as much as possible, whether it's to finding ways to beautify the main park that we have in each of our neighborhoods, or finding ways to bring public art into our parks, or engage our seniors in planting events and other things to beautify our neighborhood, bring in more trees, bring in more greenery, and make up for the fact that because we lack it, this is something that is really important to me to address, both as Parks Chair for our entire New York City Council, as well as the council member for this district here in Jackson Heights and Elmhurst.
Okay, so currently AARP is updating its livability index, which you can find online at aarp.org. This is something that scores neighborhoods and communities across the United States for the services and amenities they provide, such as housing, transportation, and health. Councilmember, what are some of the challenges in your district specifically toward livability, and how are you using your position to make the neighborhoods of your community more livable for residents of all ages?
Sure. Well, thanks for the question. I would say a couple of things. As I mentioned earlier, we were the epicenter of the pandemic. We have some of the least amount of green and open space in this city, but we are a community of immigrants. We are a community of essential workers. And it is crucial that the city invest in services and resources for our neighborhood, for all of our residents here. A couple of things I can think of immediately are we have Elmhurst Hospital in our district. I am a staunch champion for our public hospitals. I believe that they are the heart of our healthcare system, and Elmhurst is at the heart of that. So I have fought unwaveringly over the years to secure millions of dollars in funding for Elmhurst Hospital, to open new clinics, to fix up the main entrance, to open up a new clinic for a hand surgeon, and other ways to really address the lack of investments that Elmhurst Hospital has had, but badly needs. And the reason for that is because healthcare is so important from our children to our seniors. We need to make sure that in our community of Elmhurst and Jackson Heights, our seniors have immediate access to quality healthcare in the event of an emergency or simply for a daily checkup. Your insurance status, immigration status should not be a barrier in any way to accessing quality healthcare, because everyone in New York City, every single New Yorker deserves quality healthcare. I'm proud to work closely with Elmhurst Hospital the Speaker of our New York City Council, our Borough President, and my colleagues in the City Council to bring much needed investments to Elmhurst Hospital to make sure it has the resources it needs to provide quality healthcare for everyone in our community. And I've heard from so many seniors, from families, how it has made a difference in their lives. And I will continue to fight strongly every day for Elmhurst Hospital. Secondly, as the Parks Chair of our New York City Council, I think it's crucial that our community benefit far more from more plantings, trees, and green space. We know how important parks and green space are for our health and well-being at any age. And for me, it's important that a community like ours that ranks 50 out of 51 council districts when it comes to green space and public space, that we see the investments in our public spaces and green spaces that we desperately need. One thing that comes to mind is I was proud to work with the New York Restoration Project, the Department of Transportation, the Parks Department, to create a project where we engaged many seniors in our neighborhood in tree plantings along our median on our 34th Avenue open street. Beautiful plants that were put in, beautiful planters that were there. It became really a community project that engaged many of our seniors and at the same time brought much needed shade and beautification to our neighborhood. And these are the kinds of things that I want to do to keep making sure that we're both investing in and expanding our green spaces for everyone in our community.
So let's talk a bit about your district as a whole. And I know you've mentioned, healthcare and trees and open spaces are very big issues, but what else would you say is the top issue in your community that you've heard from your constituents over the past year, and what have you done to address it?
One of the most critical issues, I think, facing our entire city is our housing crisis. I always say housing is the most urgent crisis we face in this city because it connects to every other crisis around us. And as rents continue to rise in this neighborhood and across New York City, I am especially concerned about the impact it will have on tenants who cannot afford their rents, who may be on public benefits like DRE or like SCRE, from young families to our seniors who are born, raised, live in this community, but are really in fear of being displaced because of rising rents or predatory behavior by landlords or otherwise. One of the top priorities that I've really invested in is find ways to protect people in their homes. My office has worked with many seniors and constituents who have come in to help ensure they can get access to their SCRE benefits, to make sure that if they feel that they're not getting adequate accessibility upgrades in their apartments, we've been able to work with them to put pressure on our landlords to make sure that our apartments are made accessible, that our seniors have the public benefits they need to afford their rents. Looking always for opportunities for more senior housing in our neighborhood too, and across New York City, and ensuring that the rights of our seniors to stay in their homes are protected from any kind of harassment or discrimination. We've worked closely with community organizations, legal services organizations to protect the housing rights of those who live here, and will continue to do so. It is an urgent issue for everyone in our community. And honestly, the fight for housing justice and affordability connects to every other crisis around us.
That's definitely something that's been echoed by your colleagues around town for sure. And finally, what is there anyone whom you've worked with in the community in your district over the past year that you would like to recognize for their positive impact?
I've been so proud to work with so many individuals across our community. One thing that really stands out to me is we are a community that has many historic and special NORCs, or naturally occurring retirement communities. I've been so proud to join our NORCs for their events, for meetings, to engage them in some of the planting projects that I mentioned, NORC members, to engage them in some of the planting projects I mentioned earlier in our community too. And I was proud to fight to ensure that our NORCs received permanent, otherwise known as baseline, permanent funding in the city budget to support them and their services. It's been a joy to work with and engage with the seniors in our neighborhood at our NORCs. And I'll always continue to fight for them and make sure they have the funding they need and the opportunities they need, from legal services to planting projects that keep them engaged and make sure we get the support from city government that we need for our NORCs. I was proud to achieve that in our city budget in multiple years, and will continue to fight for our NORCs.
Oh, it's fantastic to hear. Well, Councilmember Krishnan, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to talking again soon.
Certainly. And thanks. This concludes this installment of In the Community With, sponsored by AARP. I'm Robert Posericky. Thanks very much for watching, and have a great day.